You know, what really are friends? How do you define friends? You don't just make a decision, oh, you are my friend now. Like, how can you, what do you define them as? You know, it's kind of weird. So I've done some thinking, and I believe I have found out what makes a friend a friend. Obviously, this is subjective, but I'm gonna go in depth and detail on like even chemicals that are being used in the body and stuff like that. So just sit back and enjoy the commentary. Let's go. First of all, have you ever noticed how your beliefs could change depending on what other people are doing over very long periods of time? You probably don't notice it just by like looking and seeing that it has happened. But many people change by the people they're surrounded by, like cultures. So many people are fitting that culture. It's just a tendency of human nature to learn how other people are learning and be biased towards that. People who are raised under uh, specifically politically leaning parents, people who are raised by them tend to share those biases, and a whole bunch of other different biases like that. People learn from others, and how friendships are actually made and how bonds are made between people is sharing a belief. Being able to say that I believe what you believe, or we believe the same thing, or you surround yourself with people who believe what you believe. I think that's the best kind of phrasing for it. Just overall, that is very important with human nature. Like, the primitive reason for this is if everyone shares belief systems and everyone just has biases like that, everyone gets along and there's no fighting, everybody helps each other out, and everyone stays alive. That's good. But if people kind of like fight and don't believe the same thing, it reduces the ability to create bonds between each other, and it is a very bad system. So we naturally have the ability to bias ourselves, and because of those biases, we try to match ourselves up with other people like ourselves. Now, along with this is, besides those fundamental beliefs or ways of living or thought processes or whatever it is that's similar that makes you believe the same thing, uh, you're able to fight about anything in friendships. Like, you can fight no matter what. Oftentimes, the friendship changes very little even if you fight every single day. Oftentimes, the best of friends fight every single day. And it, like, maybe they're not big fights, but fights happen, different arguments and stuff like that, and it's able to stay fine because of people trying to not only, like, because of the friendship, you're able to express certain ideas or do things to cause that argument, that fight, because you know that it's a friendship and it's going to be fine, and you're allowed to do that, you're able to do that perfectly fine. But because you're always trying to keep that friendship, because that bond is something that you're looking to actually try to keep naturally in your body. You're trying to do that, and that leads me into the chemicals of what's actually happening. Now, there are 5 different chemicals that are kind of associated with happiness that I'm going to mention here. Endorphins and dopamine are chemicals that happen inside your body and don't necessarily pertain to other people but are affecting your happiness. And then there's also serotonin and oxytocin, which are controlled by other people you're around. You experience these chemicals by the things you interpret from your surroundings. That's how you get it from other people. And then cortisol, which can be both just by yourself and by other people, but cortisol is mainly a stress chemical and it prevents happiness, so it's kind of like the opposite of the other 4. But what I'm going to be talking about extensively is serotonin and oxytocin. So these chemicals are responsible for getting happiness from outside sources, other people. So I'll start with serotonin. Serotonin is the feeling of confidence or pride. Uh, it can be by yourself, but most often uh, it's shown with feeling pride for other people or with other people. Even though it activates primarily in one person, it spreads to multiple people by the sight of one single person getting it. So, like, I'll give an example here. If someone graduates from high school or wherever, or does something eventful, you get a surge of serotonin. You feel confident, you feel good, you feel proud, and other people around you sense that, and they feel proud for you completing it. They are so proud of you, that kind of like, I'm so proud of you, son, or like whatever the situation is, and it's just, it helps to create a bond in that way, where people feel connected to others because they feel empathetic towards the other person and prideful. And then oxytocin is a primarily good feeling, like just warm and fuzzy, like just happiness. If you can envision that at all, it's when something good happens and you feel good because that good thing happened. It is stereotypically happy, and that is primarily caused by doing things for each other, uh, actually spending quality time with each other, doing things like, why do you feel like it's okay to have in-depth personal emotional conversations with a friend but not a stranger? Because you've built up that association with oxytocin with the friend, even though the total stranger might actually be more receptive to you and what you have to say. They might be more knowledgeable or whatever. You do not want to go to them, you want to go to your friend, because you've built up that association of oxytocin, and you know that they are feeling the same way, that you know the empathy is there, and it causes friendship, and everything's good, everything feels good, you feel comfortable, and everything works out. These are the reasons why a friend is not something that you add on Facebook. It will never come close. There are no qualifications to make you a friend. It's not a decision to be a friend. It has to be a close bond of oxytocin and serotonin. Serotonin basically just enhances the friendship, but oxytocin is extremely important in actually creating the comfortable setting to be friends, and this is extremely important in actually creating a close bond between each other. And because of these reasons, you're perfectly comfortable giving to someone, giving your time, giving your energy, giving anything to a friend with no expectation of getting anything in return. You are also comfortable telling them anything. In fact, sometimes you might actually want to tell them more, like it's an urge in your body because of these chemicals saying that it's good in your body. It's like very subtle changes that you don't even perceive in your body, that your subconscious pulls through and makes you feel like you should do something, and you just feel like that connection is worthwhile, and friendships are good. They're, again, primitive reasons to stay together as a group and work together. By the way, this is mostly for from personal experience. Admitting when you're wrong, or when there's a kind of perspective shift or any kind of thing where you have different points of view, possibly one person being right or one person being wrong, but mainly when there's a discrepancy there, some kind of thing. If you admit that and try to resolve it, that is a very good way to keep respect with the person, and uh, experience both oxytocin and serotonin at the same time. It's a very good way to keep a friendship, and like a lot of the time that will come up in fights or like arguments, and that's actually a very good way to improve your friendships, to actually say those things or admit that you're wrong in that specific way at the end of a fight or wherever. Don't, like, obviously don't just in the middle of it or whatever just say, you know what, I'm wrong, and like actually mean it, and actually like do it at the appropriate times when everything seems settled and stuff like that. It is very good to do, to keep a friendship, and not just keep a friendship but actually extend it forward through time and create a more powerful, lasting bond between each other. And I guess where I'm going with all this is that our generation, Generation Y, has no concept of these things, no understanding in their senses, in like they have no what is the word I'm looking for? Natural understanding of what is actually going on here for this kind of stuff. Like very little people actually understand these concepts, and maybe not like in as great of detail as I have shared with you, but just simple reasons. Being able to spend quality time with people, and not necessarily even in person, but just the quality of time spent. And you cannot have quality time through text, through words. I don't mean text messaging. I mean through words. You can mostly do it through voice communication. Video communication is like, obviously if it's just video, that's worse, but allowing video and everything, it's a lot better as well. But like real life, there's nothing that beats that, and a lot of people don't use that as well as they could. But when you go home and stuff like that, like voice communication is extremely important. Like, don't just email someone or go on Facebook to talk to someone. If there's something that really matters, or that is sharing an opinion or sharing emotions, do not do it through words. Do not. Anything that shares emotions deserves at least voice. You need tonal recognition and be able to explain real time what you're talking about. There's no way to make sure that you're on the same page otherwise, and there's so many other things. I could go on forever, but I'm just not gonna have time for that. I'm actually recording this video without any knowledge of what I'm gonna put under it, so I have no idea what time I have, so I might be too early, I might be too late, who knows. But you guys see the point where I'm going with this. So I'm just gonna end it here. See you guys later.